It's time for another Wildcat All In. I'm Paul Gruen, joined today by Kate Standifird, a senior setter, a super senior setter for the Weber State volleyball team. Kate, thanks for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
We're excited to get to know you a little bit more and talk about you and your experiences here, and as we prepare for another volleyball season coming up very soon. And can you believe, I believe you're starting your 6th season at Weber State, is that right?
Yeah, my 6th, kind of crazy.
Yeah, as you look back on that, who would have thought, right, that when you came here in 2019 that you'd be a senior now?
Yeah, definitely not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
But.
So let's go over your journey a little bit. You come from Lehigh, Utah, so obviously not too far away, but what was your growing up like? Did you play volleyball a lot? Did you play other sports a lot too?
Yeah, so growing up I played volleyball, softball, and basketball actually. And volleyball was the last one that I started. I was really into basketball for a really long time. And my neighbor, who was my best friend, one day was like, "Hey, you should come play volleyball with me. Like, we should try out for the junior high team." And so I was like, "Oh, whatever, you know." And so that was probably when I was like 13-ish, when I was starting 7th grade. And I started and I kind of just fell in love with it. And I played the other ones up until I got into high school. And then I kind of just focused on volleyball, and that was my main thing.
So what was your recruiting process like?
It was kind of like everybody else's. I feel like I didn't have very many offers. Weber was like my one offer, and Maya and all the coaching staff was so great. I talked to a couple other schools and a lot of the ones in Utah, but Weber was definitely the one that I fell in love with the most, and I've been grateful that I've been able to be here and everything.
Well, so you came in 2019 and redshirted. And then, obviously, 2020 happens in the COVID year, which turns into the spring, and you played there quite a bit, and so you get an extra year, and now you're entering your fourth playing season, I guess, 5th playing season essentially. But as you look back on the numerous matches you played in, so many matches here at Weber State, how have you grown from your freshman year to now?
Ooh, that's a loaded question. I think looking back from where I was back then to where I am now, I'm a completely different person in a much better way. And I think volleyball-wise, for sure, like you said, my freshman year, I redshirted, and I was able to learn from an amazing setter. Her name's Ashlyn Power. She was here a few years ago, and she was so great and took me under her wing and taught me everything there was about working hard and the offense and how the game worked. And so I got to grow with her until she left us, and then it was on my own. But not only like volleyball wise, but I feel like as a person I've grown a ton, and I feel like I'm very much more of like a confident woman now than I have ever been in my life. And a lot of the things that I've done and gone through throughout my years here, I think have very much prepared me for the future and anything that could possibly come my way in the future, which is pretty awesome. But looking back, I'm very, very grateful that I was able to be here and go through the things and be around the people that I was around, because I think that made such a huge difference, being around such good, influential people in my life.
For sure. And you've been part of some amazing experiences on the court too, and success and championships. I mean, it's really hard to name a few, but can you think of it? Are there a couple moments, memorable games and matches that stand out for you?
I think one of the biggest ones was the weird 2020, spring 2021, whatever COVID year that we had, when we won the Big Sky title for the first time in like 35 years or whatever it was. And just going through, seeing where the program started, especially when Jeremiah took over, and to where it was at that point, and winning that last match was such an influential moment. And it was so cool to be able to do that with those girls on the court together. And I think like a lot of the matches, like I don't really remember anything that happened in them, to be honest, but like the experience that I've had with these girls have been some of my favorite that I've ever had. And one experience that's not actually with my team, but one that was super influential that I'll remember forever was last year I actually got to play against my little sister at UVU. And that was probably one of my favorite, if not my favorite memory I've had here, just being able to play. And there was like a moment in time when we were right across the net from each other, going head to head. And that was probably one of my favorite things, just seeing all the things that I've gone through and all the things that she's about to go through, and being able to do that together has been pretty awesome too.
Sure.
But
what do you love most about being a setter? Because sometimes the setter doesn't get a lot of, attention, but boy, they're so important on the court. What do you love about that position?
I think something I love about being a setter that a lot of people don't like is I love like the tactical side of things. We run the offense. We have to know everything that's going on the other side, on our side, and being able to kind of problem solve, knowing where I want to put my middle blocker or what their blockers are doing, and kind of being able to run my offense the way that I want to. And especially like in moments when like maybe it's tough and it's tight and it's like, oh, we're going to do this and we're going to go side out and get this point. And I think that that's probably my favorite thing about it.
Well, you were telling me before we started too that there was a time in your career where you had a challenge even completing that task as your job is to set the ball. Tell us a little bit more about that and how you overcame it.
Yeah, so I would say my junior year, but there's too many. But my third season at Weber in 2021, the fall, I was playing really well the whole season. I even got a couple opportunities to set when one of the other girls was struggling. And towards the end of the season, I went kind of through this interesting mental block, I guess you could say, a mental challenge. And I kind of got what's called the yips, if you don't know what the yips are. If you think about it in terms of like baseball, if you have a shortstop, maybe they get grounders all the time, and then all of a sudden they can't throw to first base. It's like they've done that their whole life, and then next thing you know, it's like they can almost like forget how to do it. And so my third year here, towards the end of the season, I kind of had that happen with my setting. So I'm not exaggerating when I say every single time I touched the ball, I doubled every single ball, which sounds kind of silly to think about, but like it's very much real. And it was really scary and really challenging because for as long as I knew, like volleyball was my life and volleyball was what I put all my time and effort into. And it all of a sudden kind of felt like I was not myself. Like in a way, I kind of put my whole identity into volleyball. And when I all of a sudden like really struggled doing the one thing that I was really, really good at, it was kind of like, who am I? Like, what am I doing? Like, am I ever going to be able to feel normal again? Like, I remember sitting there and I was like, wow, I am never going to be like normal again, which is a really scary and kind of sad thought. But
it had an effect on you for sure.
Yeah, and it was a lot to take in all at once. And luckily for me, I have my head coach, Jeremiah, who has been amazing. And we spent many days in his office crying and talking and trying to figure this out and trying to figure out how I was going to get over it. And I eventually just kind of had to make a decision that I was either going to like push through and do this thing and not be afraid of what might come, or I wasn't going to play volleyball anymore. Mm-hmm. Like that's kind of the reality of the situation. And so I spent that whole next spring just working as hard as I could to be able to get out of that and get back into a better mental space. And I think that it took a really long time, and sometimes it still kind of rears its ugly head. But I think going through something like that has given me so much more confidence in myself as a setter, in my teammates, and also just like who I am as a person, knowing that I am a lot more than volleyball. I think that was also something that I had to learn was I'm a lot more of a person than a volleyball player. And I bring a lot more qualities than I really think that I do.
That's impressive and great that you overcame that. You are more than that, and while you've been at school here for your 6th year, right, you've done a lot in school too.
Yes.
Tell us about what you're doing now in school.
So last spring, I just finished my physical education teaching degree. So I teach PE and health, and I was in a high school this last semester doing my student teaching. And then in this fall, I'm starting a master's program, and it's like a sport leadership coaching master's degree. So it's kind of in the education field, but it has a big emphasis on sports and like the coaching aspect of that side of things. And
long term, you think you want to teach and coach, right?
I would love to, yeah. I actually teach a volleyball class here on campus right now. This coming fall will be my 4th semester doing it, and so I love it. That's coach great. Camps all the time, so that is something that I would love to do when I'm older.
Well, Kate, what experience you've been through the last several years here at Weber State, and I'm sure you're so excited for one more season and it's coming here soon, and we can't wait. So thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Go Wildcats.